So this is Music Video Director Guy Part 2. So if you haven't heard Part 1, you should skip back a couple of episodes. Check that out. It's a really good episode. It was quite a revelation for, well, me especially, I guess. Realizing sort of how I approached what I'd called my passion for so many years, with so much anxiety and putting myself under a lot of pressure to perform, to outperform myself even. But that was then. Now this is now. This is part 2, which I'm doing solo. When I went out and started making this new music video, it was a lot harder than I had thought, and I was very optimistic about sort of having fun, enjoying myself, and it wasn't. Well, I guess in some sense it felt almost like a nightmare because it was so stressful and nothing went as planned, and it wasn't a disaster, but it felt very forced, like I was forcing it. I had to be in control for it to go the way I wanted it to, and it didn't. And I remember very clearly that night when we had a music video shoot like a month ago, or even a month ago, which I talked about in the previous episode. I'm not going to talk too much about that, but it was very hectic, stressful, and things didn't go as planned. And we had a cat, and it was you shouldn't have pets in or animals at all in a video production. I think is kids, boats, and animals. But yeah, so that sort of, in the aftermath of that experience, I was like, I never want to do a music video ever again. I'm just going to cancel this project and just let it disintegrate into nothingness. But at the same time, it became so very clear that was exactly what I had to do, and I had to actually learn from that experience and actually listen to what I was both telling myself in terms of the pressure I was putting myself under, because the reality of it all was that the band, good friends of mine, the cinematographer, a really good friend of mine, it was a good place, it was friends, and still I was super stressed, as if I was making something really important for some sort of obscure client or something. I don't even know what I was picturing in my head. And the day felt just like that, really like I said, forced and stressful, and I was exhausted afterwards and really bummed out. Now the results of the shoot actually looked really good, and it goes to show it can still be good even though it wasn't perfect, which I think is a very important life lesson. Good as opposed to perfect, and what is perfect anyways. But so this music video is a complicated music video by my design, because I don't know, I like it. And now that part of it I really like making it sort of larger than something, or more expansive. But so this music video, to cut it short, is it has many locations, and it has many people involved, dancers, the band, a marching band actually, which I'm gonna come back to, and I had to have many days of shooting, just to get everything done. And I think, like in retrospect, my first mistake the first day of shooting was putting a lot of scenes into that day, because I wanted to get a lot of stuff done, to get it like done as quickly as possible. So it became very like not there was no flow. It was just me pushing it as hard as I could to make ends meet. So that was something as I recall back to making music videos back in the days as well, we would do the video in one day. So it'd be like a 16-hour day. So it'd be like, at the end of it all, you'd be a mess. So when we planned, because even though I was like, I should just cancel this, a part of me was still, no, let's do this and let's enjoy it. Now that I actually realized that I didn't enjoy it, but only pretended to enjoy it, what happens if I actually enjoy it? So I planned the second day of shooting, which was last weekend. And now this was actually planned months ago, because one of the a featuring artist on the song, which was a Danish rapper, was unable to come to Norway to shoot his part of the video until, well, last weekend. So it'd been planned months in advance, and I wrote in the script that he should be sort of like a mayor, and that if he would do an unveiling of sorts, of a new bridge or of well, something important, and that he would have to stop that, because the plot of the video was that someone kidnapped a cat, and if the people didn't dance, the cat would be murdered. It sounds, I guess, a bit cruel, but the point of it all was, it's hard to get people to get them engaged in important issues. It seems like you actually have to threaten them with killing a cute cat for them to listen, which I think is a good and a solid and grounded message. I really like it. It's a good song. It's in Norwegian, so maybe not that accessible to English-speaking people, but who knows? Could subtitle it, I guess. But so he's going to be a mayor, and in my mind I was like, but then there needs to be a marching band, because if the mayor is having a grand opening, there should be a marching band. Or in Norway, at least, typically there will be a marching band if you have a grand opening of a school or of some sort of well, item, a park maybe. I don't know. But so. He was going to open something. I said I want a marching band, and it turns out that there was a marching band actually readily available that wanted to be a part of the video, and that was also arranged actually almost before I had the really hard recording session where I almost gave up. And so when we spoke to the marching band people, which were parents, of course, because it's mostly kids, they were like, well, it can't be raining, because then they can't have their instruments outside, and it can't be cold. So I was like, okay, so maybe we should do it inside. But then it turns out that by sheer accident, the school that this marching band adheres to has a statue of a cat outside of the school, and it seemed almost absurd, right? So you're making a music video about a cat being kidnapped, and you need some item that should be unveiled, and by complete randomness, or should we say divine intervention, I get a marching band that actually has a school that has a cat outside of the school, a statue that I can unveil in the video. It's almost perfect. Actually, it's so perfect that someone in real life stole that cat. Like the plot of the video where a cat is missing and they threaten to kill it. I guess no one threatened to kill a statue, but the statue was still missing, so we needed to get a new statue. And that sort of stressed me a bit, because what if we don't have a statue, and what if it's raining, and what if it's cold, and all these things that can happen. And what if the Danish guy, well, what if he doesn't, what if his plane's delayed? And it's a lot of what ifs. But I kept in the back of my mind the realization of the fact that I pretended to be present and enjoy myself when I was really in torment, trying to achieve something very mind-based. That it was painful. It was hard. It was not fun. And this was always present in the back of my mind this time around. So when when we did the planning, it was with a completely different energy, and I was way more like trustful with people involved as to whether they could fix what they said they would fix. Like the band said, "We'll fix the statue," and I was like, "Yes, you'll fix the statue." And the school, yes, the school will provide for us, and it did, and everything felt really right, and it came from such a good place, and I was present. I was sort of there, not elsewhere, and I think that was crucial to the whole experience in itself. Now, obviously, there was this a couple of days prior to the day of shooting, the weather temperature dropped like drastically, and it started snowing, and that was like, oh, snow, that's not gonna work, because we need to pretend that this is not in the winter. Plus, the marching band cannot be outside in the snow. That would be a disaster. And so I talked to the band. Could we have like a plan B? Could they do something inside the inside of the school, but the statue is outside of the school? And it was so because it was sort of starting to, the whole like, I need to plan it and it needs to be perfect. That whole part started like coming in the back door, I guess, like just popping up there. But then Elling in the band, he said this thing, well, it's, we could just sort of approach this as if it was a real unveiling of a statue, and if it's raining, we'll do some of it inside and some of it outside, and it's not going to be a problem. And then it dawned on me, it's only a problem if you let it become a problem. If you're so stuck, like if you're so caught up in the idea that it has to be exactly the way that you pictured it, if not, it's going to be a failure. Then you're destined to fail. And Elling's beautiful, wonderful approach, where what happens, and we'll adjust accordingly. And the moment sort of that jigsaw piece came into my massive puzzle of stress and whatnot, it all fell into place, and I became like super calm, and it just, well, like I said, I was back into sort of like the steady flow, and it was just gonna be like a smooth, exciting day where we make a music video, and I have to say, it seemed almost miraculous, because even though the weather had been not good, and the weather forecasts were were so-so, and a lot of things were sort of up in the air. Will the statue be there on time? This replacement statue. What about the marching band? Are they happy? Will we have food for them? Because there's like 50 of them. And I just kept trusting the people around me, the people involved. And the morning like of the day of the shooting, I was like somewhat anxious, and I talked to my wife, and I was like, well, what if it's gonna be like last time? And then she said, just looked at me and she said, well, this isn't last time. This is completely different. And it's so like a matter of perspective, because right then and there I could have decided that this is going to be exactly like last time, and like that it would have been. But it wasn't. Every time is a new opportunity to do things totally different. If you're present, if you're sticking around to actually pay attention to what's going on. Because it was totally different. The whole vibe was different. And I met with the cinematographer on location an hour before we started, and we just had a good talk, and everything just felt good. And he also, Christian is a wonderful human being. I think I would have maybe many times called him my guru, and I think that should actually sort of stick, because he's such a wonderful help and guide. And he was like talking about the whole, when you start something, like in a video shoot, up until the point where you actually shoot the first scene, things are sort of just floating about. It's just people everywhere, and nobody knows exactly what to do until you say like, okay, we're doing this. And he said it's important to remember that once you start it, just keep the motion going. If you just keep the flow, you're an unstoppable force. But if you start second guessing and be like, oh, maybe we should regroup and rethink this, and just hold your horses, everyone. There's 100 people just standing around, and things get chaotic quite fast. So I think that was a good reminder of just when you're doing something, like when you're doing it, just don't stop overthinking it, because then you sort of become self-conscious, and that might make you trip a bit more than necessary, I guess. So even though one of the rappers, and our rappers are always, I think, always late. But this time around, because the first time I was really stressed because they were an hour late. I was, oh no, we're an hour late, and we have a tight schedule, and we need to make this perfect. Whereas this time around, I was like, this is okay. He will show up. This is cool. And he showed up, and I had like a nice pep talk with the marching band. This is mostly kids, like around the age of 9 till 13, I think, like 50 of them, and it was fun, and it was we were just goofing around for 3 hours, and everything went smoothly. The weather was perfect. Danish rapper Per V, he was in like in a good place, and then the marching band were just, it was a blast. Sorry. And it's just like the whole vibe of it all, and I was super calm, and we just did like one scene after the next, and just kept on going, and then we were finished, and we had some hot dogs, and we even had cake because there was one of the props was a cake. So I guess that's the perk. You can eat the props afterwards. It was a really good cake. And we started packing up. We were outside, and the moment we had finished packing, it started raining. And it just felt perfect, you know. We had this small gap where we could do exactly what we needed to do, and it was all in a good place, and out of love. I think I dare say love. And it was so, like those 2 days, like the first day of shooting where everything felt like a nightmare, to this one where it just felt like a dream. It was mesmerizing, and to actually acknowledge that it's all in your head, man. Like, it's all in your head, because the moment you freak out and get like super stressed and this is not what it's supposed to be, like it was gonna be different, then that's a slippery slope, man. I dare say. So it was, that was the second day of shooting. Now, in this video, and this is something I've never done before, I'm actually performing in the video myself, not as a rapper or anything, because I don't think I would ever. No, I've actually rapped like at least one time, and it went fairly well. So never say never, I guess. But I'm dancing in the video. Now, I'm not a dancer, or no, that's not the right way to phrase it. I used to tell myself that I'm not a dancer, so then I didn't dance, and by accident, I guess, my son, who was dancing, had dance classes at this place here in the town where I live. He said, "Well, Dad, aren't you gonna go do dancing?" And I was like, "Well, I guess so." And I think that's actually 2 years ago, and I've been dancing ever since. So this is hip hop for grown-ups, which I think is like poetic, because I've been like making music videos for Norwegian rappers for decades almost, and never been in front of the camera or done anything even remotely resembling moving my body to a rhythm. And there I was, dancing. It was scary at first, and it's still, I have to admit, it is kind of scary, but I'm dancing in a rap video, and that's our third day of shooting, which is gonna happen this coming weekend, where I'm gonna dance in a video. Now, I do think it would be wise of me to stay present, stay calm, and be open for whatever happens, and dare trust that it's all good. And if something goes wrong, that is also okay. I heard this, I think it was Henry Winkler on the Pete Holmes' You Made It Weird podcast. It's such a great podcast, and they're talking about like major like insights, and Henry Winkler says, not getting in your own way. And it just, I think it's so beautifully put and so spot on, because who is your greatest obstacles other than yourself? And those 2 days of shooting became very very apparent, because the first time around I was constantly in my own way, and on the second one I was just present, and that was more than enough. So I think maybe there will be a third episode, but I think that will coincide with the release of the video. That's going to be a video where I'm dancing. I'm not the only one dancing, that goes to say, but the wonderful people in my hip-hop ensemble troupe, that's gonna be awesome. I think if I told my 20-year-old self that 40-year-old Ulf would be dancing in a music video, I think 20-year-old Ulf would be somewhat surprised and maybe not taking that too seriously. I will just have to time travel and see, I guess, and hear what he thinks. I think we all should dance in music videos. I think that would be healthy both for ourselves and for the planet as a whole. More dancing, more music, more videos. Anyone can do it, I guess, right? Yeah. So can you.